What it does is it requires Baldoni to prove a higher burden than he would otherwise have to prove in this defamation lawsuit.
If and when their defamation lawsuit is dismissed.
Blakelively is freaking out as the judge refuses to dismiss Justin Baldoni's defamation countersuit. Her legal shield is cracking, and things are spiraling fast.
Huge risk, and so it's not a fair fight. They're going into this with uneven risks on either side.
With public opinion turning, financial risks piling up, and her credibility in question, Blake's courtroom power play is blowing up in her perfectly manicured face.
Juries don't like liars. Trials are about credibility.
Blakelively really thought she ate with this one. Girl marched into court like she was the queen of the legal system, waving around California's new shiny toy, that oh-so-powerful Me Too privilege law, Section 47.1, like it was a personal golden ticket.
She used the California law as background for her dismissal.
Sorry, Blake, this ain't Gossip Girl, and you're not getting an automatic win just because you brought a new law to the party. This isn't your Netflix script. This is real court, and it did not go how she planned. Let's just rewind a sec. Blake, the Hollywood darling, Ryan Reynolds' better half, the one people used to swoon over on red carpets? Yeah, she just got wrecked in court.
She's talking about Baldoni's First Amendment complaint. And remember, this is Lively wanting to dismiss the First Amendment complaint claims against her. They're saying that it does not allege a single element of the defamation or false light claims.
Like legally face-planted. And the best part, she didn't even see it coming. Her big plan was to shut down Justin Baldoni's defamation countersuit with this so-called ironclad motion to dismiss. Bold move, Blake, except the judge took one look, probably sipped their coffee, and said nah, this stays. The whole thing backfired completely. Baldoni's countersuit, still alive, still kicking, still waiting to bite back.
Is it valid though if the judge says yes, you can use California law in this instant? Could they dismiss his case because of that?
This isn't just another Hollywood court mess. This is the kind of chaos where top-tier celebrity tries to flex in federal court and gets humbled. And it's not just embarrassing, it's expensive, like millions of dollars expensive. And don't forget, this is the same Blake who's clinging to that America's sweetheart image while playing legal dodgeball. Sorry, Blake, image cracking, court strategy failing, reputation wobbling.
We're going to see that this law is somewhat devastating to some of the claims that are being made here. And
now let's talk about that ridiculous gamble she made with the new Me Too law, Section 47.1 of the California Code of Civil Procedure. Her legal team, shout out to Ezra A. Hudson over at Mannett, Phelps and Phillips, really thought they had the magic wand. They banked everything on this law, which supposedly protects sexual harassment disclosures from retaliation. Sounds noble, right? Except here's the thing, it only works if the disclosures were made in good faith and without malice. Blake's team must have missed that memo, or ignored it. Not sure which is worse.
It requires Baldoni to prove a higher burden than he would otherwise have to prove in this defamation lawsuit. So he actually has to show that Blakelively's, anything she said, any communication she made about SH, that they were made in malice. And so that's a higher standard that he has to prove.
And let's just talk about the timing for a second. This law, 47.1, went into effect on January 1, 2024. Guess when Blake decided to file her complaint? Yep, right after that. Because of course she did. It's almost like she waited for the ink to dry on the law before she pulled the legal trigger. Totally not suspicious at all, right? Right.
To some of the claims that are being made here. And what 47.1, it bars retaliatory lawsuits based on public disclosures of sexual harassment and related allegations, including disclosures to the press.
Now the icing on this lopsided cake, her lawyer actually had the nerve to call Baldoni's countersuit a profound abuse of the legal process. The irony is off the charts. Like, is this satire? Because the only thing that's been abused here is common sense.
That in this case, it looks abusive.
This law, Section 47.1, does give some pretty intense protections, but only when you come correct. You can't just throw it out like a shield every time someone calls you out. Blake tried to use it like a get-out-of-lawsuit-free card, and the judge was like, nice try. And here's where Blake's entire argument just straight up tripped over itself.
Judge in Blakelively's case just slapped down their psychopathic request.
She tried to file all this in California so she could activate her shiny new law. One problem, everything happened in New York. Like girl, did your lawyers skip jurisdiction 101?
lawyers are stupid. It's like he's like being nice here. He's like, your lawyers are really stupid.
That's legal strategy 101. You don't file in California just because you like California law. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. It's what we call a jurisdictional faceplant, and it could ruin everything she tried to do.
California law relative to the lawsuit against Lively for defamation is a little problematic. So we have not seen the opposition yet that the Wayfair parties are going to make to the motion to dismiss filed by Lively, but I suspect that they're going to want New York over California law. We'll see what they do.
California law, we'll see what they do. And now let's really rip into her so-called evidence. You know, the stuff she used to support her harassment claims. First up, the big one. Apparently, Baldoni dared to, wait for it, comment on her appearance on set. Scandalous, right? No. That's literally what directors do every single day. They critique actors' looks, costumes, angles, ASA. It's part of the job. It's not harassment. It's called being a co-director. But of course, Blake took that and screamed HR violation.
Has expectedly filed to be dismissed from the lawsuit against her. Her argument that she is presenting is that the lawsuit in and of itself is illegal, okay, because the matter at hand is pertaining to sexual harassment.
Then she says Baldoni entered her trailer to tell her she looked unflattering in the footage. You'd think he broke into her house with a ski mask and a megaphone the way she framed it. But nope. Multiple sources say this was just normal production talk, which happens all the time. You know, in the real world, where actors and directors actually interact like professionals. But to Blake, that was harassment. Either she's wildly exaggerating, or she's trying to weaponize workplace dynamics for legal drama. Neither one is a good look.
It's intensely personal. It's getting more personal. They're going to discover more information that's going to make them angry. They're out to salvage their reputation, so there's not going to be an easy way to walk away from this and say, okay, let's just call it a day.
And we're not even done yet. Let's talk about the dancing scene. Yes, this is a real thing. There's video and audio of her dancing and laughing with Baldoni. No fear. No trauma. No discomfort. Just straight up chill vibes. So explain to me how you're claiming harassment, but you're out there having a party on set. That's like calling someone a thief while handing them your wallet. You can't make this stuff up.
And we will see how 47.1 can be devastating, but there are certain hoops you have to jump through for 47.1 to apply.
Oh, and then there's the 17 demands. Yeah, 17. Blake allegedly laid out this list of must-haves before she'd returned to filming after the writer's strike. Most people return to work with a coffee and a calendar. Blake came back with a whole manifesto. These weren't boundaries, these were power plays. The kind of stuff you pull when you're trying to take over a movie. And honestly, the vibe wasn't Justice Warrior, it was more like hostile takeover in heels. You know how some people play chess? Blake tried to flip the board.
You are not able to hold a logical thought, but guess what? I, as a judge, I am able to hold a logical thought, so we're going to slap that down. You obviously cannot do.
So let's break it down. You've got a celebrity who tried to paint herself as a victim but failed to bring anything solid to back it up. You've got a legal team throwing around brand new laws like they're Monopoly cards. You've got jurisdiction issues that would make a first-year law student cringe. And you've got evidence that dissolves faster than Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool sarcasm.
And so I think there could be some argument about whether it was leaked and shouldn't have been leaked and should they have the information or what it may be. But no matter what happens, this is a damning quote.
At the end of the day, and again, we're not concluding anything here, but Blakelively walked into court thinking she was serving legal genius. What she served was legal nonsense with a side of desperation. The judge saw right through it. Her motion didn't just fail, it exploded in her face. And guess what? That defamation countersuit she wanted gone? Still here. Still strong. Still waiting.
It is so clear Blake's case is falling apart. She's destroying her cred. Ryan Reynolds.
And now we enter the part of Blakelively's legal train wreck that truly makes you stop and say, girl, what were you thinking? Like, someone call Serena van der Woodsen, because Blake clearly needs a rerun on logic and law. So let's talk about how our courtroom princess thought she could use California law in a situation that literally screams New York from every angle. Here are the facts. Justin Baldoni, New York resident. Events, New York-based. Blake's idea, file everything in California. I mean, why not, right? California's got her favorite toy, Section 47.1, that shiny new you can't sue me for calling someone outlaw. But guess what, Blake? Just because you prefer California's legal weather doesn't mean it applies. The court isn't your personal dressing room where you get to pick which law makes you look the best.
Attorney here goes on to say, on top of that, Section 47.1 contains a mandatory fee-shifting provision that will require the Wayfair parties to pay not only Miss Lively's attorney's fees, but also treble damages and punitive damages. Of course, those would have to be proven.
What Blake clearly didn't grasp, or chose to ignore, is something called diversity jurisdiction. Basic federal court concept. Not hard. When people from different states are involved in a lawsuit, the federal court has to analyze each claim separately to figure out which state law actually applies. You can't just go innie, meanie, California and expect the court to nod along. And this wasn't some small error, this was a colossal miscalculation.
Breaking news, Justin Baldoni just got a big win, meaning Blakelively got a big loss.
Now Baldoni's team did bring claims against the New York Times under California law, fair enough, but they never agreed that Blake's nonsense would also fall under the same umbrella. There's a difference between suing a national publication and suing a co-worker who started a smear campaign because she didn't get her way on a film set. Baldoni's legal team can now argue that New York law should apply to Blake's defamation case, and here's the kicker, New York doesn't have Section 47.1. In other words, Blake's legal superpower vanishes.
It seems insurmountable. It seems like this case cannot be settled.
So let's get this straight. Blakelively built her entire motion to dismiss around a California law that might not even apply. And if that isn't the crack in the hull of her whole case, I don't know what is. Honestly, if her legal strategy were ship, it would already be halfway underwater and the band would be playing Nearer My God to Thee.
It just blows my mind how dumb Blakelively's team is and how just, I guess, egocentric, maniacal that she thinks that she can tell the world, you didn't see what you actually saw with your eyes. It's insane.
Now let's move to something even messier. Blake's actual motive. Because once you peel back the layers of legal fluff and bad PR, it starts to look like this whole I'm a victim campaign was really just a cover for a hostile takeover. Let's talk about Baldoni's first amended complaint. According to that document, Blake's sexual harassment allegations didn't stem from any one explosive incident. No, they popped up conveniently after a string of creative clashes. As in, she didn't like the direction of the film, so she started playing legal hardball. You really can't make this stuff up.
They weren't the first to do this. It was Blakelively, it was Ryan Reynolds, this was their strategy, and now they kind of want to put the genie back in the bottle. But guess what? The genie does not want to go back in the bottle. The genie likes to be free, okay?
The accusations say she tried to override co-directors, manipulate the script, and basically bulldoze her way into total control, not just of the current project but also the sequel. You know how some people co-produce movies? Blake tried to co-direct the entire court case while gaslighting her way to the sequel rights. And let's not overlook her timing, her CRD complaint and those little press leaks about the harassment. They all came out after she had her power struggles, not when the alleged harassment was actually happening. If you're being harassed in real time, you don't wait 6 months and then file your claims the moment your script suggestions get rejected. That's not justice, that's plotting.
I mean, is it not a little hypocritical? Is this a bad look of her if she's trying to tell the courts that we should stop talking about this in public?
And if we're talking actual malice, which the law requires to prove defamation, this is textbook. Malice means the person acted out of hatred or ill will. And here's Blake, leaking to the media, controlling the story, and building a legal fortress, all while making herself look like some kind of martyr. It's giving PR manipulation. It's giving defamation disguise. It's giving calculated chaos. Court insiders even suspect she filed her original SH complaint just to protect herself legally when the defamation countersuit dropped. That's not bravery. That's a weaponized legal loophole in lipstick and designer heels.
In his first amendment complaint, he talks a lot about Miss Lively's overall scheme to take over the movie. And I think that a lot of that is going towards that she had an ulterior motive when it came to what she was doing. And it seems to me that that could form the basis or the factual basis for actual malice.
And just when you think the circus couldn't get more Hollywood, enter Ryan Reynolds, everyone's favorite quick-talking Deadpool, suddenly becoming Blake's unofficial legal bulldog. If Blake is the poor victim in public, Ryan decided to be the back-enforcer in court. Now here's what we know. Ryan Reynolds allegedly called Baldoni a predator to people in the industry, including a WME executive. No legal proof, just vibes. Just pure, unfiltered slander. And for what? To defend his wife? To flex some weird Hollywood loyalty? Or just to stir the pot for fun? Oh, and let's not forget that whole nice pool debacle. Ryan straight up admitted that his Deadpool parody character was based on Baldoni. Yeah, that's the same character that acts erratic, creepy, and borderline psychotic. But sure, Blake's the one being wronged here.
This dispute, these words that were said by Lively side had a clear, immediate negative impact on Baldoni's career.
Ryan Reynolds' motion to dismiss was a legal disaster, described by experts as bombastic, sloppy, and unnecessarily cruel. Instead of helping Blake Lively, it turned a legal filing into a theatrical rant, making settlement nearly impossible. While Blake's team at least tried to appear professional, Ryan went full flamethrower, escalating the situation from tense to total chaos.
You can make your CRD complaint if that's what you want to do. Still can't be sued for defamation. And once you make that CRD complaint, it's covered not only by the litigation privilege, but you can communicate it to the Times, and it's covered under the fair reporting privilege.
And the damage didn't stop there. Blake's entire legal playbook is built on shaky ground. She filed in California, relying on Section 47.1, a law that might not even apply due to jurisdiction issues. Her harassment claims look more like office drama than actual misconduct, and conveniently surfaced only after she lost control over creative decisions. Ryan jumped in with defamatory remarks, making things worse, not better. Together, they've turned a serious lawsuit into a tabloid-level spectacle.
Okay, so I was able to read the amended complaint, which, by the way, it's very abnormal. It's almost 180 pages, 400 and some odd paragraphs. Complaints are not normally that long, but this one has to be for public consumption.
Now the financial risk is all on Baldoni. If he loses, Section 47.1 could force him to pay Blake's entire legal bill, treble damages, and even punitive damages. Blake, on the other hand, risks nothing. A completely rigged game. She thought she was dominating a courtroom chess match, but she walked into a high-stakes poker game with no cards, while Baldoni holds the ace.
The real problem for him, and our concern for Baldoni, is if he goes forward and he loses his countersuit, based on defamation, there's a huge risk to him because he then has to pay Lively's attorney's fees, treble damages, punitive damages. It's a huge risk.
And you know what happens if Blake loses? Nothing. Zero. She walks away with her overpriced shoes untarnished, her bill unpaid, and her reputation pretending to be intact. This law is structured like a completely rigged poker game where only one player, Baldoni, has real chips on the table. Blake. She's bluffing with monopoly money and still acting like the queen of strategy.
If you have somebody who has a significant amount of power in the industry and has the ability to tell stars not to go on your podcast in the future, and has general ability to make life uncomfortable for you and ask for a favor, you're more inclined to do it, right?
Meanwhile, let's not forget that Baldoni and his crew over at Wayfarer are already drowning in legal filings. They've been slapped with not one, not two, but 4 separate 12(b)(6) motions, and just dealing with those is costing them more than $1 million. And yeah, they've got Steve Sarowitz, the billionaire executive, backing them, but even billionaires start to sweat when they're burning cash by the stack. Blake's team thought it would be real cute to poke at him too. Her attorney literally mocked his wealth in the motion to dismiss, saying his $100 million war chest may not go as planned. Oh, how clever. Nothing like flexing your privilege while snidely mocking someone for fighting back.
And she gets a little strike at Steve Sarowitz here when she says that Steve Sarowitz may indeed make good on his threat to spend $100 million litigating against Miss Lively, but perhaps not in the way he planned.
Well, that's kind of fun.
Blake Lively's victim act is falling flat, and the public isn't buying it. She's not some powerless figure. She's a Hollywood elite twisting legal protections into weapons. Section 47.1 wasn't made for celebrities throwing tantrums over creative control. Her CRD filing, media leaks, and legal loopholes scream manipulation, not justice. Legal experts are calling it a legal judo move gone wrong, and judges can see through the act. Blake's lawsuit feels more like a PR stunt than a cry for help.
She wants different rules for her than she wants for Baldoni and his team, which I don't think the judge will agree with.
The biggest threat to Blake right now? If the court decides she acted with malice, or even worse, didn't have a reasonable basis to file those SH claims in the first place, then Section 47.1 goes up in flames. Gone. Shredded. Null and void. And once that legal shield is stripped away, Her motion to dismiss becomes a pile of useless paper, and Baldoni's lawsuit charges forward like a bull through a glass boutique. And that brings us to where things stand now, because this whole case isn't fading quietly. In fact, if anything, it's heating up. Baldoni's countersuit? Far from dismissed. In fact, it's probably heading straight to a jury trial, especially if the court grants him permission to file a second amended complaint, which at this point seems more and more likely.
And then the jury has to look at the totality of that evidence and say, is that malice? And there's certainly evidence that would lead one to believe a jury could find that.
And for Blake, things are getting real, fast. We're not just talking about legal exposure anymore. We're talking financial liability and public reputation collapse. And let's face it, once the public turns, it turns hard. People who once championed her are now asking questions. Fans are combing through her statements. Even some of her allies are going quiet. And when even your own supporters start wondering if you gamed the system, you know the PR storm is already brewing. Legal analysts aren't mincing words either. They're calling this entire chapter a watershed moment. Not because it ends the case, but because it finally exposes Blake's legal strategy as what it truly is, hollow. All the smoke and mirrors. All the press narrative. All the high-gloss legal maneuvers, it's unraveling. And it's happening fast. So here we are, at the edge of what might become the most explosive celebrity lawsuit of 2025. Not because of the crime. Not because of the countersuit. But because Blakelively, in all her calculated grandeur, underestimated the truth. She bet everything on a law designed for victims, and forgot one thing. The court still knows how to spot a manipulator. She thought she was playing chess. But baby, this ain't checkmate. It's just the beginning of the meltdown. Blake's legal house of cards is collapsing. Subscribe now for the next chapter in Hollywood's most chaotic courtroom show.